State Department is pulling an agent that specializes in responding to escalated cartel activity.
This is not my department.
You want to be a part of this?
Do we get an opportunity of the men responsible for today?
The men who are really responsible for today.
Every day across that border, people are killed with his blessing. To find them would be like discovering a vaccine.
Spotter vehicle, left lane.
Spotter vehicle, 9 o'clock.
Get his weapon out.
I'm not a soldier. This is not what I do.
Juarez is what happens when they dig in. This is it.
Gotta be careful around these people. CIA is not supposed to work this side of the fence.
Just want to know what I'm getting into.
You will not survive here.
You use me as bait. Freeze!
You saw things you shouldn't have seen.
He works for that composition.
Providing a measure of order that we could control.
I'm gonna tell everyone what you did.
That would be a major mistake.
And welcome back to the Filmreelcast. It's film review time, and I'm very pleased to say I'm joined by my good friends Neil and Paul. Chaps, how are you?
Hello, Stu. I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm tip top, my friend. What about yourself? Paul, how you good? You good? Happy?
Yeah, I'm always happy, mate. You know me.
Oh God, that's worrying. That really is worrying.
Unless someone does a pre-flight check wrong on a helicopter in a film, then he's not very happy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or a sword
Or
fight.
if someone starts throwing that stick
yeah.
around like it's a flipping, yeah. Tiny inputs, tiny inputs. That's all you need. Don't get me started. Come on.
Oh, I
dearie
already
me.
got him to bite already. I love it.
You have. You've done really well there. It's very early days, and you've done it. So, but yeah, this week we are reviewing. I'm very pleased to say it's my go-to film. It's a film that I'm very passionate about. It's 2015 Sicario, which is directed by Denis Villeneuve, written by Taylor Sheridan, and it's got a wonderful cast. It really, really has. It's got Emily Blunt as Kate Mesa, Josh Brolin as Matt Graver, Benicio del Toro as Alejandro. You've got John Bernthal, as Ted the Punisher, Victor Garber as Dave Jennings, and you've got Daniel Kaluuya as Reggie Wayne. And you've got Jeffrey Donovan as Steve Forsing, who is one nerd, but he's cool as F. He really is. And you've got several people who I can't pronounce. Julio Cesar Cedillo, who plays Fausto Alcaron, who is the top mafia or top cartel boss. And it's just a really, really great cast put together. This film, for me, is written amazingly well. It's directed incredibly well. The score of it is brilliant. The cinematography, there is just not a few things about it you think, yeah, but I just love it. And we've chosen films again because we're grown up and we're actually getting organised to do an advance. And this was a film that I chose because I say it's like Lucy, it's a go-to film. I love it so much. And you guys have chosen films. Tell me and tell everyone else what excitement they've got to look forward to in the month of September.
Well, I've chosen The Matrix.
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
It's one of my go-to films. I've seen it many times and I love it. I like all three of the trilogy, but I know people really slate them after the first one. But I just really like it. It was sort of groundbreaking when it came out. And even to this day, it still sort of stands up for me. So I wanted to see what everyone else had to think about it.
No, it doesn't. And it's interesting that that's your kind of go-to film, because it will be good for me off the back of that if you kind of, well, as you say, you understand what The Matrix is about, we will have a conversation at some point during that podcast about the gatekeeper scene in number 3, is it?
Yeah, well, yeah. There's lots of gatekeepers, isn't there?
That's one messed up conversation that I never understand. But you're right. In 1999, it was broke so many boundaries, didn't it? And opened the door for so many other people. And I mean, I think it was the Wachowski brothers, wasn't it?
It was indeed.
Directed it, and I mean, they must be fucking rubbing their hands together still off the back of that, honestly. It was really, really good. And Paul,
Did the first Matrix come out in 89?
99.
Oh, 99.
1999, yeah.
Yeah. But no doubt, Paul, you have a film in the 80s. What was your choice? Tell everyone.
Well, you know what? I didn't want to be predictable, but I will be. So my go-to film, I'll tell you in a minute, but I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to nip through Netflix and just see, and Amazon Prime to see if there's something else. And I saw this new one come up from 2020 on Amazon.
Yes.
And it was called An English Haunting, right? I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting, that's different. And we talked last week, or the week before, about ghost films and films about hauntings and stuff not being scary. And I would recommend no one watch this film. It's dreadful. I watched it thinking we could watch this film and review it. Don't watch this film. It's dreadful.
Really?
Yeah. So give that a swerve. But I will refer back to my original go-to, and that was Stir Crazy.
Oh, 1980, Gene Wilder's Fire. Fantastic.
Yes.
I watched that the other day.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's a great film. I've seen it. It's one of these films you watch on a Sunday afternoon. It's a laugh a minute, as was See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and Silver Streak. So these guys together are chemistry. So that's
completely
what we're
agree.
Do.
That film is genius film, I have to say. Anyone who's not seen it, regardless it's 1980 rather than the 80s, it is a film that makes you feel good. It's stupid and they're brilliant. And for me, out of all of the ones they've done, of three, it's the best one.
I think it's the best one.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
I think
just
it's the best one.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I haven't seen it for a long time, so I'm looking forward to watching that. Because I wanted to do Batman.
Right. With the
original one. Yeah, Michael Keaton's Batman.
Oh, brilliant. I like it.
Because I know Stu's not a massive fan of them. But there's nowhere you can watch it without having to pay for the bloody thing.
Right.
So for such an old film, so that's the other reason I chose the Matrix.
I do like Michael Keaton.
Yeah. But never mind.
That would have been interesting because I honestly really don't like those films.
I know, that's why I wanted to do it.
Yeah, it would have been really quite a divisive one because I know James is very passionate as well. So it would have been good. Hopefully one day they'll change that and stop being money grabbing bastards and actually give something free away when people pay for everything on TV. So it's
when you add
criminal.
it all up, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah,
you actually all the different platforms. You're like, Jesus, how much money am I spending? And you still have to charge me for something that was made in the 80s. It's a joke.
It's naughty, isn't it? Amazon Prime, Netflix, you've got Disney Plus as well.
Yeah.
And they just corner that market and they handcuff you into having to pay for it because and everyone else is talking about it. It's like, I mean, The Mandalorian. I love The Mandalorian. It's so good. And when you get that, I don't mind paying for it. But apart from that, and obviously the Marvel stuff, which I love, and the Star Wars stuff they've got, the rest of Disney Channel is shit, to be honest. It's terrible. Their Stars Channel, the extra one, is crap. There's hardly anything good on there.
It's like Apple TV as well, like Apple TV Plus. So I had that like for a year, and they throughout lockdown they extended it, which I thought was a nice little generous gift. And there was a couple of decent series on there, and I watched the series, the two, and I was like, what else is on there? And it was just rubbish. I thought, you know what, I'm not paying for this. So I just didn't continue the subscription because there's nothing on there. It's just
it's absolutely
trash. Every single one has their own little niche, and you end up paying like £7 here, £10 there, 30 quid here. And I mean, it all adds up, as you say, doesn't it? It's like £100 a month you pay or over plus to
and those little nuggets
everything
that come along end up not being worth it. Like The Servant that you found on Apple and you told me about it, you recommended it. Absolutely brilliant. But that wouldn't be enough to hold me to Apple TV because the rest of it's It's fucking tosh, isn't it?
No,
It really
and you
is.
know what? There's been another series, but it's not been enough. It's not been enough for me to pay. What is it? I don't know what it is. It's not expensive, but I'm not paying 50 quid for a series.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? Because it's not expensive on its own, but like we review stuff. So I've got Sky, I've got Netflix, I've got Amazon, and I've got Disney. When you add all that up, it's quite a lot of money just to sit in front of a square box.
It does.
Do you know what I mean?
The idiot's lantern, as they used to call it.
Yeah. But what frustrates me more, and I'm going to have a bit of a dig at Sky here, is that you pay for the Sky and then you pay for the movies, and you go and have a look, and then they still try and charge you to rent or buy a film, which is donkey's years old. The same with Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Those two are the worst, in my opinion, and I know but it just really hacks me off.
This is our platform to do this. This is what we can do.
Yeah.
The internet gives us a platform to slate whatever we want.
That's why I like Netflix, because you just have a one-off payment and that's it.
And you know, whatever you click on is there to watch. You don't have to worry. Is it a rental? Oh God, is it? But you can just watch it. So yeah, completely agree, mate.
Yeah.
But Sicario, who had seen Sicario before this review?
Nope.
Fantastic. And we've not spoken about it, so we don't know where we're going to come from, our points of view. But for those who haven't seen Sicario, who are listening to this, it's on Amazon Prime at the moment. You've got the HD version, you've got the extended version, and the normal version as well. Obviously, I've watched all of them, but they're all available. I don't know how long for, but totally recommend it. But as I say, the story, it's a 2015 action thriller, as I said, directed by Denis Villeneuve, written by Taylor Sheridan. So Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro, Josh Brolin. This follows FBI agent Kate Mercer, who is Emily Blunt's character. She's enlisted by a government task force to bring down the Sonora cartel Lieutenant Manuel Diaz, the overall leader, Fausto Alcaron. This involves shaking the tree a little and causing hell, as Brolin talks about later on, while travelling to Mexico to extradite Diaz's brother and henchman, Guillermo Diaz. This all happens under the guise of being watched by a very secretive Alejandro Gillick, played by Benicio del Toro. And the story of this, even though it appears quite complicated, it's a very simple story. And it was, I found it, I don't know if it's because it's numerous watchings, but did you find this easy to follow with the little twists they had in this?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. It wasn't. Yeah, it was a good script. I thought it was a good idea, and I was gripped from the start, especially with the opening.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it wasn't hard to follow. To be honest.
And it gets you straight. When I first saw this film, I didn't really know what it was about. I just saw the cast and I thought I'll give it a go, because it's such a tight cast. But it gets you straight into fucking jaw dropping on the floor from the start, when you've got the police, and when you've got like the SWAT teams, and you've got obviously the FBI, and you learn that Emily Blunt's character, Kate Mercer, is like a door kicker. She works on the hostage rescue team, doesn't she? And she's been doing this for numerous years. And she's a bit of a kind of a grunt, they call her. And you've got Daniel Kaluuya, another actor who's brilliant. He's such a good actor. He's playing Reggie Wayne, who's an old Afghanistan. He's a vet, but he's kind of a bit of a greenhorn, bit kind of wet behind the ears on this. And they take out this house, and it's just amazing what they do, isn't it? It's just such hardcore. I've got a massive bollocks, and I'm just going to take no shit as they go into this house. I mean, what did you think of the intro to this?
It set the film up well. It was good. It was action packed. Set the film up well, and it showed what kind of character she was, and that the fact that her mettle had been tested and she was up for the task in hand.
Yeah, it is great. I mean, they smashed down the front of this house. It's in Arizona. It's just on the border of Mexico, and as they come through the front of the house, they exit the vehicle and they take out everyone in the house. And she nearly takes a shotgun shell to the head. But as you said, you learn that she's made of strong stuff, and the fact that she's a female, and it shouldn't anyway, it makes no difference, and she can handle her own. But the shotgun shell in the wall, it's noticed by Daniel Kaluuya that there's people buried and wrapped up, gift wrapped inside the walls. This house that's been plastered and extended, and it's shocking, isn't it? It's a shocking find that wasn't expected.
How many total?
We've got 15 in this hall here, about 20 in the back bedroom. We haven't even checked the attic or under the crawl space.
Call DOJ, let them know we have.
No, definitely, because they're going in there, aren't they, to grab hostages that are being held by this cartel. Yeah, and by chance, he blows a hole in the wall trying to kill her, who she brilliantly takes out, by the way. And they notice this. They just find a couple of bodies, don't they, in the wall. And I think the only issue I had with that is clearly when they'd shot the hole in the wall, that stench would have come out instantaneously. And it wasn't until they uncovered literally all of it, and then all of a sudden, oh, it smells. And, but that was the only bit of it that I found a bit iffy, but it was brilliant, wasn't it? Who thinks to put people in walls?
Oh yeah, the bodies behind the walls was absolutely terrifying. It was sickening. You saw the bags over their faces would have either been suffocated and shot in the head. And the fact that there's about 35 bodies that they've only found so far that are stuffed behind walls, which is women, men, children. And it goes to show the brutality of these cartels and the lengths they'll go to just on their executions alone. I've not seen a film that starts this hardcore for a long while, that is kind of bordering on real life as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. You don't know, do you, how true to life it is. I'm sure stuff like this probably does happen. I'm not going to be naive enough to say that it doesn't, but it is shocking, isn't it, to even think that something like this happens to normal people.
I would imagine as well that, like, even with the best plastering and the best wrapping, it's still going to stink in there, isn't it?
Well, exactly. Yeah,
there's no resale value of that house now, is there?
Not after a side of it's blown to smithereens later on.
Imagine trying to sell a house like that. Yeah. 40 bodies.
View of dirty bodies.
Exactly. Yeah. It says it's the 3-bedroom, but in fact we discovered 50 bodies in this house, so it proves that you can put more people if you want.
You can sleep as many as you like.
and it's interesting because you meet Victor Garber and Dave Jennings, and you learn that Victor Garber's character, I think he's for the Department of Justice, there's so many people who are puppets in this by people who are higher powers, who are elected senators who are pulling the strings, and whether they like it or not, they're kind of having to do these dirty deeds, which I find really interesting. I like things when it's very political, and the second one is highlighted as well as being very political, which is another very good film. That these things happen, and you know that there's people way up high in the government pulling these strings, and there's this shit going on that we don't know about, and it's just been all authorized, and it's just so covert. I just find that fascinating. I really, really do that actually happens.
Yeah, cloak and daggers and stuff, isn't it? It's, like the SAS and other bits and pieces. It's amazing when you think about it, isn't it, that these people make these decisions and we have no idea what's going on, do we?
No.
Until all these operations that go on around the world and stuff. We didn't even know it happened, and it probably happens next to us, sort of thing.
Yeah, and these people are so highly trained. That's what I also find I love these SAS books. And when you read the life experiences of people on tours in Afghanistan and what they've gone through physically and mentally and come out the other side, and their level of training throughout the firefights and the pressures they're under, to think clearly and operate, I just think it's incredible. And the fact that when you get these soldiers who can do this, and even like when you get like in this film, I know it's obviously only a film, but when you get these people who can, regardless of all the death and the violence around them, can stay so level-headed and focused and go and take out who they need to take out. Like the people who took out bin Laden, you've got someone operated a drone like hundreds of miles above giving orders to these different people, like it's highlighted in this film. And it's just fascinating that people can watch you, and scary that they can give orders from a drone from an office thousands of miles away and all the soldiers around. It's the technology these days in warfare. It's incredible, and it's frightening as well.
I was surprised to see Victor Garber in this, because I didn't think he made it back from James Cameron's Titanic in '97. I thought he went down with the ship.
No, he's got seaweed on him when you see him.
He's got seaweed on him. It was Thomas Andrews. I liked him in that, actually. He was good in that.
So what's that? Is that the Kate Winslet one?
Kate Winslet, yeah. And Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah.
I've been cinema for ages. I fucking hate that.
I loved it. I watched it when they brought it out in 3D. I went to see it at the Rotunda in Kingston. 3D. They brought it out. In fact, my mate, a good friend of mine, he actually was responsible for having it made into 3D. Yeah.
And you like the film?
I do like the film.
Neil, you called me a big girl last week. I remember that.
This is why.
I just like the history of it.
I can't argue.
I like the film, you know.
Look,
I've got to be honest. Yeah. I'm not a massive fan of Titanic. I have to be. It's a bit. Apart from the ship going down and the really horrendousness of what they did with not putting enough people on there.
I think the Poseidon Adventure is much better than Titanic.
First or second?
First, without a doubt.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's
much
a
better film. I think the Titanic's too predictable. You know it's going to happen, don't you? So. Yeah, I'm just not interested in that. There's no surprise there.
Can I get a rewind? Yes.
But yeah, so getting back to this.
Yeah.
And when they discover everything, I think everything's going really well. You get these two poor police officers who think they're being really helpful, and that's clumsy as fuck. But you could see it happening, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And they get blown up. They obviously got some kind of IED in that shed when they're clearing the shed out, whilst everyone else is throwing their guts up in the garden after the discovery of the bodies. And the police, as usual, are the cannon fodder, aren't they?
Hey, Bobby's found something.
All they needed was
pretty gruesome, wasn't it?
Yeah.
As it's your last day on your job before you retire, you can clean out the shed.
Yeah. You can have the bolt cutters just in case anything needs being on. Yeah.
All you need to do today is carry these bolt cutters. Great. What's the worst that could happen? He never made it back. That would be my luck. That really would be.
Oh, damn, it was one day from retirement.
I love those cliche films. I really.
They're brilliant, aren't they? It's pretty gruesome, though, isn't it, when that copper's sort of crawling away from the blast and he's got some of his head missing and there's a hand laying there. It
is awful.
They don't hold back, do they? With the old gore in this.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it's kind of like that all the way through the film. And what I did like, the way this is filmed, it's very kind of looks raw footage, and I like the fact that they hold a shot for so long. In a lot of films, they'll show the audience what's going on, and then bang, show the next thing, bang, show the next thing. But the way they hold these like these pictures of what's happening, and they're playing this kind of music, and it's like this big horn kind of playing that builds that tension up. And there's a really good shot towards the end when the soldiers, like the Delta Force, are going in the tunnels, and you see them walking into the distance, and it's a really long shot held there, and it works so well. And they do that in this film so much with that music playing, and it's just brilliantly done. It just kind of adds that air of like realism. It makes it really authentic, I think. Anyway, but
I like that. I agree, Stu. I think that's that. You know, when you look back at dramas and films in the 80s, you would hold a long shot, and we'd have the patience back then to follow it and enjoy it. But now, the people that are making the films think that we don't have the attention in TV shows. We don't have the attention span of a gnat. So everything's like change, move, just keep changing the camera shot and camera angles, because we haven't got the attention, and this it's unusual and it works. It's good.
It reminded me of Platoon and Full Metal Jacket and stuff
Yeah.
like that. A lot of the scenes where they're walking away or to things and stuff like that, and it goes back to sort of that classic cinema, if you like. Even I watched it the original Italian Job the other day, and
Yeah.
it was just a scene in it that went on for ages where they're just driving about.
Yeah.
And I just sort of sat there going, bloody hell, this is a long scene. But it was rather than, there was no words, it was just them driving a Jeep from one location to another. And and like Paul just rightly said, you don't get that anymore at all. And I did appreciate with this film, I know it's a little bit older now, isn't it? 6 years old, but it's still nice that they reverted back to those long shots and stuff like that. So I agree with you.
Yeah, and it's carried on in the second film, Soldado, as well. It just gets you involved in it, and I think it's great. It doesn't even have to have any words as well. The score of it is just brilliant, and you start to kind of find out more of who's pulling the strings and who's involved. When the next scene, and I really do love Josh Brolin. I think he's such a good actor. I really do. He can play many roles. And he plays a CIA officer called Matt Graver, and he's always behind everything of this kind of team, like pulling the strings. And to Emily Blunt's character, he's so vague about everything. It's all cloak and dagger, which adds to her frustration. And she comes across as the innocence of what she thinks build up an investigation, take the person down. Once you've got a case against them, then you put that case to the prosecution, the DA, and then you take them down. And these guys don't work on any page at all, do they? They've got their own set of rules.
She's quite naive, isn't she?
Yeah.
I think, in that sense.
And I kind of think my only grievance I have with this film is that they say that she has got a long history of kicking doors down, being a kind of like a hostage rescue.
She's been leading our kidnap response team for 3 years. We put her through the grinder since she got here, and she hasn't blinked. She's in the front line. Nobody's going to be happier than Kate to see these guys go down.
So she's a thumper.
Today was her 5th OIS.
5-0, not bad for a rookie. She never worked cases?
Been kicking doors since day one.
I like her already. What about the partner? You seen action?
He's lived with us 18 months.
What's his background?
He's a sharp kid. ROTC scholarship to Maryland, did a tour in Iraq, got his law degree from UNC. He's green, but he's good.
No lawyers on this train. Just give me the girl.
So surely should have had a lot of work done with the cartels. Would have a good knowledge of the cartels, and she wouldn't be so innocent. So when she's being told by Brolin when he walks in there, because she doesn't know who anyone is, and without introducing themselves, really, they just start asking questions about, do you know the Sonora Lieutenant Cartel, Manuel Diaz? And would you know about Guantanamo Diaz? And she's kind of answering those questions, but she even admits herself that she lacks knowledge. And I find that kind of like nonsense that she wouldn't know.
Yes, surely if she's knocking down doors and doing hostage stuff on the border of Mexico, and generally, like you just said, dealing with the cartel, she's going to know a lot more about it, especially as she looks like she's very diligent.
Yeah.
In what she does.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Kate is rated really, really high, and she's really highly thought of the work that she's done because of her experience. And the kind of her frustration grows when the Department of Justice want advisors, and really it's the person who's they kind of sell as their advisor is Benicio del Toro's character, Alejandro, and they kind of don't take. I like the fact. I think it would have ruined it if they would have taken Daniel Kaluuya, because they don't want it. They say that he's too wet behind the ears and that he'd just be an interference. And for me, it works that they don't take him, because I don't want a team. I think it works better knowing that you've got Emily Blunt's frustrations, her innocence, and the pain that she fucking just does not know which way to go. She doesn't know who to believe ever during this, does she?
No, they said they didn't want a lawyer, did they? And he's an ex-lawyer, isn't he, or something or rather. And they said, "Oh, we don't want people like that on the team." And I think they play on the fact that she's sort of by the books.
Yeah, and
you know, sort of thing, you know, and they just want her there, and
you find
they've
that
sold it to her, hasn't she, big time?
yeah,
They've
sold her a
it
pack
to
of bollocks, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because you find the truth out towards the end, within about half an hour of the film ending, as to why they don't really want her. They want the FBI agency themselves, don't they?
Yeah, it's a way, isn't it?
Well, it's bizarre because they know she plays it by the books, and obviously she's got this moral standard which they acknowledge. But towards the end, they accept her to sign up to something that she's never going to sign up to because she knows it wasn't right. So how they expected that in the first place, I don't really understand.
No, I mean, what is that you're talking about at the end with the contract?
Yeah. Saying that they did it by the book, and they evidently didn't.
Yeah, but they would never have had to do that if she didn't follow. I know we'll talk about this in greater depth later, but I think it's because she followed Benito del Toro's character down that tunnel rather than go with Brolin that she was instructed to do. It was her own curiosity, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
definitely.
So, because even both of them said, "Oh, you've seen stuff that you weren't actually meant to see, and you took the wrong tunnel." So, but yeah, I mean that's a superb scene, and you learn just towards the end of this film that where they actually want to go is a place called Nogles, and they want to know how the drugs are being imported, because this is all about the cartels, different cartel factions, and the drugs being imported from Mexico. And it's quite nice that you see it from different sides. You see the police officer who's the drugs mule, who's got a family, and it's interesting that you don't see him with any wealth, that he's got a son. His son wants to go out and play football, and he's got to go to work, and he's a police officer. That he doesn't live in a nice house for all the drugs that he's pushing, which we see later on, and the risks he's taking. That these people are nothing. They're just not wealthy. They're just numbers, aren't they, to a certain extent? And I like the fact you see that.
Yeah, it's done more out of fear, probably, isn't it? They don't get much money. They're basically told, you got to do this or we'll kill you and your family or whatever. I suspect that's how it's generally done.
Yeah.
Rather than we'll give you a cut of it. He probably gets a tiny amount, but he clearly hates it, though, doesn't he, the copper? Because he gets up and the first thing he does is put whiskey or whatever in his coffee, and you know he's struggling, isn't he? He doesn't really want to go and play with his lad and take him to football, but he's like, I need to, because I need to be a good father. But it must be horrendous for these people that have to run drugs and do everything, and like you say, they're probably not doing it through choice at all.
Eking out an existence on his police officer salary.
Well, and his family's all life in danger. He's got no choice but to kind of push drugs for him and be a mule, because as we've seen already with the bodies stuck behind the wall, women, men and children, that they will kill anyone. But they tell Emily Blunt's character, that they tell Kate that she volunteers to go on board. She has to volunteer, and they're going down to El Paso, and that's the first time you really meet Benicio del Toro's character, Alejandro. That he sits there and he's very mysterious. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't really make eye contact, and you instantly know there's something not right with him. That where does he sit? Because you don't know where his place is on the table, and I quite like that, because he's such a good actor. He does this so well, doesn't he?
Massively, yeah. He is a very good actor. I don't think there's anything that he's been in that I haven't thought that his performance has been good. But he's dodgy as hell, isn't he? You know, and she's asking him questions and he just gives one-word answers, and you know, he doesn't want to really say anything, does he?
No, not at all. And he has that nightmare on the fucking plane and scares the shit out of her, doesn't he? Oh God, he must have awful terrors, and you learn that it's because he used to be a prosecutor, didn't he? He used to be like CPS, the gatekeeper, someone you go to, whose family was killed. His wife had her head cut off, and her daughter was chucked in a vat full of acid and killed. And it was definitely by the Sonora cartel, and the instruction to do this was given by Fausto Alcron, who's the head of the cartel, you learn that he's hired out to anyone, the Colombians, the Americans, but his own personal agenda is just plain and simple. It's revenge. There's nothing complicated, is it?
No, and rightly so. It's quite nice, isn't it? That it's cliche in the sense of, family's killed, he goes off and everything else like that. But you're going to, aren't you? To be fair, it's just he's clearly a very, very good mercenary, isn't he?
Oh, he's superb, and it's interesting that, like, you get in kind of Afghanistan, like you get in Russia and all these different places, that the Americans funded him, the Americans trained him and paid for him to do the dirty work, and you know all too well at the flip of a hat that they will turn on him, and you get the impression that he knows that he's just hired help, but he's willing to do anything, and that's why he's so useful.
Yeah, definitely. But that, he's not naive, is he? He knows what he is and he knows what he does. And like you say, his main motivation is the fact he just wants to get the head of the cartel. So he knows he needs to get into bed with these guys that would quite happily put him in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Just so he can get what he wants.
And he's so cold, isn't he? He's so cold.
Yeah.
It's just, he's just so focused, and I love that about him. And it just makes him such an interesting character that you want to know when he's going to do something, and if he's going to do something, who's it for? Whose side's it going to be on? And that's what he brings, like, straight away to the table in this film.
But he's likable as well, isn't he?
He is,
in the sense that he's just got that look on his face where you're like, I don't know what he's going to do, but you can't help but like him. I was sat there going, I really like him.
Yeah, I know. I feel like that every time I watch this film. I get like a man crush come out against him because he's just so good. He really is. But they soon learn, or Emily Blunt soon learns, that when she's in this briefing room, you've got Delta Squad in there, you've got the US Marshals in there, and she is way out of her depth. You've got Benicio del Toro's character sitting in the back, not saying a word, out of sight. Again, adding to his mystery. And you learn that they're not going to El Paso. They're going to, is it Juarez, the way they pronounce it? And it's just over the Mexican border. And the reason being they're going there is because they need to extradite. It's the extradition of Diaz's brother, Guillermo, or I can't even pronounce his name. They fucking names in this are so difficult. But they're going to extradite Guillermo, I think. Yeah, they're going to extradite him, and they're pretty much aware that going there will be fine. They're going to have armed convoy going there, and on the way back, they're going to go through the Mexican to US border, and that's when they fear and they're going to plan that they will be taken out by other Sicarios, other hitmen, and that's what Sicario obviously stands for. So they are armed to the teeth. And straight away, I get an instant semi when they're talking about this, because these guys, that nothing really scares the shit out of them. They are buzzing about this mission, and this is one hell of a mission, isn't it?
It's insane, isn't it? Could you imagine doing that?
I'd shit my pants.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you though? I mean, going into cartel country to take the second in command out on your, basically with a handful of men or people. Fuck that.
Exactly, and you don't know who you can trust because it's just done so well. This is it's the most stylish traffic jam in the world and the most stylish convoy that I can remember on TV. They've jumped in these black Escalades and they just go in convoy, and it looks amazingly good. You've got all of these Delta Force like mercenary guys, and you've got the police. And once they get through the border into Mexico, you then joined by the Mexican police. And as Benicio del Toro's character says, you just can't trust anyone. The police are brought out, and it'll be really worrying because the police are following them right next to them with these massive automatic machine guns, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's terrifying. That situation of the fact you can't trust anyone scares the shit out of you. And you've got Josh Brolin's character who's in there just having such a fucking laugh about it. Nothing stresses him out whatsoever, does it? It's just so much fun. The fact that he's laughing. I would find any reason under the sun not to go whatsoever. Even you've got Jeffrey Donovan's character, Steve Forsing, who's Brolin's right-hand man, who's like a geek, but a geek who's really into guns, and just another proper badass. These two are kind of like, they're almost comedic that they're so casual, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
He's like Paul. He reminded me of Paul.
Yeah, what? Geek into guns. I ain't no Michael Ryan.
How would you be in a situation, Paul? I mean, you've flown helicopters. You've flown Blue Thunder.
Blue Thunder, Airwolf. No.
Why didn't they go there by helicopter? Is it just a border issue?
I don't know, mate. I've not checked. I'll email them and find out for you. I'll come back to you by 9 a.m. Good question. Probably it was for the impact of having them in that traffic jam.
Because I wondered, is it because it's off the books that they can't fly a helicopter from US into Mexican soil? But
well, you'd have to fly. This is really. You'd have to file a flight plan with the Mexican authorities, like their version of the FAA. So it would track whoever was coming into to Mexico would be on that. What will be on the passenger list. So you probably wouldn't want that really.
But how can they? So I suppose they can't do that, but they can drive in. But they have the borders supposedly, and they plan to have the Mexican to US border left open so they can just drive straight through.
They did just that, didn't they? They did just that.
Yeah.
But they look so sus, you know. I mean, they're looking out for bandits. Yeah, they're looking out for.
It looks fucking awesome though, doesn't it? In their Escalades just driving along. It looks so mean. It really, really does. If anyone hasn't seen this film and they just want us to look at something really good, it's kind of car porn. 26 minutes into this film.
I wanted to be in that. I wanted to be in one of those vehicles just flying around.
I'd be there, my Honda Jazz at the back.
Would you?
Honestly,
you've been taking all the fucking lead, mate.
It'd be about fucking 4 miles in front of me. There's 0 to 60 in about 23 seconds. So.
Trying to outrun those bullets. Come on, baby, you can do it. Yeah,
it's slow motion, but it's a really, really good scene. And Emily Blunt's face. It's just one of absolute terror. It's as if she realizes that she's well out of her depth by now, but there's fuck all you can do, isn't there?
Yeah, you're in there now. You can't just get out and say, "Oh, all right, I'll walk back."
No, but it's great because they do pick him up without any issues, and it's interesting when they go through. I want to call it Juarez, the main town. You've got the flyover, and you've got those people hanging naked by the cartels, and the town of Juarez was so angered by this film that they told all their local the members of the public not to go and watch it because it painted such a bad picture. And he said in 2010 the town was like this, but they've worked so hard to try and sort it out, and it paints a negative picture. But I honestly don't know.
I'll put my tickets.
Exactly. It's really impactful that you've got people with their heads cut off, arms cut off, hanging naked in the middle of the town to send a message to everyone of who runs it.
It's brilliant what they do. When they mutilate a body like that, they make people think they must have been involved. They must deserve such a death because they did something. Oh, it's brilliant what they do.
And there's just more and more panic on her face. I'd have a little bit of wee come out right now if I was her.
Yeah.
I really would.
Especially
But
when
it's
they're
good
in that
'cause-
traffic jam.
Yeah, the car would stink. You need the windows open, honestly. But on the way back, they obviously pick the geezer up without any problem whatsoever. And it's when they get to that Mexican border, they realise that the borders haven't been opened and that there's an almighty traffic jam. And again, you get that music, which builds up such amazing tension.
It's really deep, isn't it? And it's just like it's almost like a growl, it's really resonant.
Yeah, I'll play a clip of it now for everyone to listen to during the podcast. But it's when they're stuck there, you've got different people looking out for, because they know they're going to get hit by the Sorona hitmen. And it's a case of watching where they go. You get that sus police car that's tailing them, and just keep an eye out. Do they trust them? Can they trust the police helping them? And you've got several different cars caught in a traffic jam, and fuck me, there's nothing covert about the people that they spot who are the hitmen, is there?
I know, there isn't, is there? But I love it. They're literally they've got tattooed faces and they're sitting there stroking their machine guns.
trying to look cool. One's trying to look asleep.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so funny, isn't it? When they sit there, they've got tattoos all over their heads. And they even pull out their weapons and that they actually see it. But it's when they're told to stay in the car, and it's only when these guys get out of the car that you get these kind of like the Delta soldiers coming out, and obviously they tell Emily Blunt to get out, and all these other kind of agents get out, and they just don't have any problems. And it is really executing all of these kind of the baddies, the hitmen, the gangs in front of everyone, and they just fuck off and leave them. And it's a really well shot scene and really tense, isn't it?
But she seems to have a problem with it. I'm like, and?
Yeah, and she shoots one of the policemen who's obviously corrupt in the face, doesn't she?
Yeah, he's about to shoot her, isn't he, through the window? And thankfully she notices in time. But
it's weird how she takes it, isn't it? I think she took it. I understand why because she's so by the book, but having witnessed it firsthand, I'm really surprised by that she's sticking to her guns of it shouldn't have been done this way. Are you?
Yeah, massively. The fact of the matter is, you've got people driving around about to try to kill you. You know, you're stuck in this traffic jam, which to me felt like maybe it was orchestrated to try and get him back, potentially. And she's got a fucking issue with it because they're shooting people. It's just...
They're bandits, aren't they? They're bandits, they're criminals, they're murderers, they're drug dealers.
Yeah.
And they're vermin. And, they start putting the hammer down, and she's got a problem with it, but I don't understand why. She's not going to stop getting hold of the other drivers of the vehicles, asking them for witness statements.
No, exactly.
That's the thing,
get in that car and you move on, get over that border.
And it's just done so, and it's brilliant, the fact, and I really, really do like Jeffrey Donovan's character, Steve Fortin. He jumps out of the car and he approaches them, and he just takes them out, and he does it so well, so clinical, double taps every single person, and he's getting out of the car. Even when he opens the door, he's holding the gun with one hand with the sight on them, and you get to see like the precision of these soldiers, which, as I said earlier, I always find fascinating to the high level that these are trained. And I love this action, but this is why you need to deal with it. This is the message that you need to send. You're not going to arrest them. It's not going to happen.
No, well, they wouldn't be arrested anyway, would they? Because he's even saying to him, he's mouthing no, isn't he? Shaking his head, walking backwards. And as he does that, they then try and get out of the car to shoot him anyway.
And as you say, it's done with precision because you don't want any collateral damage, injuring poor old bystanders.
Yeah, and they just leave the bodies in front of all of the members of the public. It's just brilliant. And Emily Blunt, as soon as she gets there, she goes absolutely mental at Josh Brolin. And Josh Brolin's character just says, well, didn't have to come. Like I lump it, you're here to learn.
a little nutty, huh?
Nutty, yeah. Yeah, that was fucking illegal. You want to start a war? You're a fucking spook. And him, I mean, who the fuck is that?
Told you could stay here.
Jesus Christ. You just spray bullets. And yeah, sure, there's just fucking civilians everywhere. I'm not a soldier. This is not what I do.
Look, don't sell yourself short, all right? The reason Rezzy's home is I know he wasn't ready for this. But he better get ready real quick, because this is the future, Kate. Juarez is what happens when they dig in. This is it.
What am I doing here?
What you're doing here is you're giving us the opportunity to shake the tree and create chaos. That's what this is.
He just doesn't care. And I like the fact that he feels he doesn't have to justify himself to her. He could have easily have done that and it would have ruined it.
Yeah,
But,
definitely. It's true though, isn't it? He said you have to, or she was told you have to volunteer for this, because she's basically decided to say yes, not knowing really anything about what she's doing. She's only got herself to blame. She can't then start pissing all over the place because she's annoyed about it. It's like,
And he's not the kind of character either, is he, that needs to justify himself to anyone?
No,
let alone her, who's volunteered for the job.
Yeah, exactly. And she's there just a piece of the jigsaw to assist them. But you start to learn the lengths that they do go to. And when I talk about them, I'm talking about the CIA with Josh Brolin and also Benicio del Toro, that they've got Diaz's brother. I can't even say his name now. The more I try and say his name, I can't even say his name. Guillermo. And,
Guillermo, isn't it? It's got to be Guillermo. Just
Guillermo,
say his brother.
there you go.
Just say his brother.
Yeah. I'm going to say Guillermo from now on, and that's it. So they got Guillermo, and Benicio del Toro gets this massive drum of water and basically waterboards him and tortures him until he coughs up where the tunnels are to where the drugs are being brought in from Mexico, and that's what he wants to know. And it's good that I think you didn't see that. I don't, because all you hear is a bit of screaming and just a pull away. For me, that worked well with your imagination because you've got a rough idea of what he's going to do. Would you have rather seen it, or how would you think that could have played out any better at all?
Yes and no. No, it didn't need to happen. But then you start thinking about it. It does, because you'd have to guess that that's what he's done. You're putting two together, aren't you, saying that he's waterboarded. We don't know what he did to him in there at all.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that is what happened. But it does, I don't know, would it have been nice to see? Not really. Does it necessarily? No. But it does sort of point at the fact that unless you're savvy enough to realise that's what he's done, you very much think that, the Mexicans are the arseholes and the Americans are all nicey-nicey, if you like. They won't go to that extreme.
Yeah, exactly. And you see just by the look on Josh Brolin's face that he's done this numerous times before with regards to torturing and waterboarding people. He has no issues because his main drive is, it's the goal, end of the day, whatever it takes to get the job done. And that's what he's focused on. And I really, really like that. It works for me that he hasn't got any signs of any weaknesses. Someone like that is so dangerous, I think. But the next scene is, it took, to be honest, I'm a bit of a dumbass, as you know, when I watch these films, and I enjoy them. And it's like, I don't really understand. I just look at it and go, oh, wow, it's really great.
That's what I do. That's what I view a film.
It's only about 300 viewings of this film that the penny starts to slowly drop. And because when I first watched this, I thought, why have they got everyone from that bus station and they're questioning them? I take it you understood whilst they were doing this, and I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean it because it took a while for that little penny to drop for me.
Initially, no, I had no idea. I've got to be honest. It isn't until later on then I sort of realised what they were doing. But straight away when they had them there, I was like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Loads of people just sat about and asking them where they've been in America. But it is obvious when you think about it. But at the time, no.
I'm so glad you said that. You could have easily have lied and really made me look like even more of a dumbass than I usually am.
I'm being kind, to be fair. I knew exactly what was going on.
Of course I got it, yeah. My son got it as well, but it's not a problem.
Yeah, my 9-year-old who I let watch this, he was like, oh, they're doing that, aren't they, Dad? Yeah.
But, yeah, because it turns, they stop this bus, they've got all the passengers out, and they want to know who was arrested. And these are people who have been stopped and arrested at the border coming into America. And they want to know who was arrested around Noogles area. So Benicio del Toro's character speaks to a few of the passengers and the idea is that if they all know the area, the same area that all these people avoided going to, that's where the cartel will be operating, because if they went there, that they'd be killed. And again, they've got the Noogles information from the waterboarding torture, and they've just basically cemented it whilst talking to these passengers, so they know where to go. And I have to be honest, it took me such a long time to actually get that. Honestly, it really, really did. I'm such a fucking dumbass. I think if we weren't doing this podcast, I don't know whether I would have ever got it, because I watched it so many times.
The good thing is you did.
Oh, thanks, Dad.
I'm proud of you.
And the next scene shows the naivety, because and it's kind of, I feel I'm a bit like Emily Blunt's character. I feel like I'm watching this, but I'm in the dark as to what's going on half the time. And what they want to do is cause absolute chaos. And the reason being is because they want to get Manuel Diaz, who's the lieutenant to the Sonora cartel. They want to cause so much chaos that Manuel Diaz is called back to Mexico to face Alcaron to explain what's actually happening. And one of the ways they're going to do that, like I do in a lot of films, which is, I like the fact they do it and they show that it doesn't work, is go to the bank and confiscate a shitload of money and trying to hit him financially. And again, it shows a naivety in this. One, that Emily Blunt thinks it will possibly work. And two, about don't go into the bank and don't show your face on CCTV, because once you're on there, they'll know who you are. And I really, really like that. I think that shows how sinister that they are, and why Josh Brolin just stays in the van during this operation, doesn't he?
You coming?
No, don't go in the bank.
This is something we can actually build a case on.
Don't go in the bank, Kate. There you go, and she's going in the bank.
Yeah, and he tries to tell her not to. You know, it's like, just don't do it.
Again, that comes back to a naivety, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just, you know, everyone to the top, and like someone is in their pockets. Everyone's in their pockets, you know.
But how can she not appreciate how dangerous these people are, though? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, I think that's probably the weakest part of this film, isn't it? Is the fact that everything she's seen, she's still so by the book. And there's nothing wrong with being by the book, but there's also the ability to learn that the book is a set of rules that people bend. And you've got to sometimes, you know, follow someone that's been doing this for a long time and not just, you know, be a dick about it. And she throughout this entire film, at no point does she ever not learn that lesson.
No, not at all.
And that's the bit that frustrates me the most about it. It's just, you know, come on, everything you fucking seen and you're still not getting it.
Yeah, she's used to working to the rules, and she struggles time and time again when these rules are being bent. And even Josh Brolin does explain why he's doing that. I mean, he didn't explain about the bank, but this is the kind of intel that you'd think someone who's experienced would know, that people who are working on the borders of these countries would know just not to do. Their basic errors, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it does, especially as she's so good, or allegedly so good at her job and experienced, that it's kind of puzzles me. But when they take the money off these people, and she's paying every week $9,000 into this bank account, and there's millions in there, that they've got little kind of these bands you get that different charities sell, and they've got these red and pink and blue bands that the money's all wrapped in, which is a massive bit of foreshadowing for later on, isn't it?
Huge.
Which is pretty much a bit of a lifesaver. But she thinks that they can take them down. But as the guy explains, who's like the IRS and DEA, that you can't bounce from one account to another because it all looks like legitimate money, doesn't it? And this won't even dent them. They'll freeze their accounts for a couple of months and then they'll get the money back.
Yeah, and it was quite. I quite liked the other thing because apparently he said it's like a credit thing, wasn't it? So if you pay a bit more of something you've borrowed each month, it then goes as credit or whatever, and there's like $17 million worth of credit that he had in there and stuff like that, and he said that's not, you can't even touch it.
Yeah.
You know, so they're not stupid, are they? But she still seems to think that they can go through the books and do it this way. It just, it's laughable, really.
It is, because even she says we can arrest him now, and he says, well, his account will be frozen for a couple of months, and then he'll get all the money back.
Yeah. So what's the point?
Yeah, it must be so frustrating for people like her who can't understand this. But again, there's method in Josh Brolin's madness, because this is his whole plan of shaking the tree and getting different cartels to turn on each other, making one weaker financially for a month will have an impact. And it's even explained to her, and I think it's explained really well by Dave Jennings, the Department of Justice guy, when he says that you're operating inside the rules, and the people high above, the senators who are elected by the members of public, have put these people in power, and the rules are fine. You can do pretty much what you want. But she still doesn't accept it, does she?
No. But like I said, that's what, this is a very, very, very good film. But her character, and I guess that's the story, isn't it, at the end of the day? But you think, and I said this earlier, with everything she's seen and witnessed and everything else, surely she just either turn around and say, okay, I'm going to have to get on board with it, or just walk away. But she doesn't, and it's just so odd.
Yeah, I'd never think that, and I'm glad she doesn't go with it, and I'm glad she does fight it, because it shows the strength in her character against all of these alpha males. But you kind of wonder whether there'll be a point where she taps out, and there isn't that point. And it's kind of the frustration that she's got becomes annoying to a certain fact.
Yes.
You think, just fucking get on with it. Like, everyone you've spoken to, even your boss's boss, has said you're not breaking the rules. Just crack on with it. And it's interesting because her naivety again is highlighted when they go to the bar, because they're just drinking away their sorrows. And whilst they're at the bar, they bump into John Bernthal, obviously better known as the Punisher, and in Walking Dead as well. And they kind of hit it off together. Emily Blunt does, and Bernthal's character. And when they get back to the room, she's kind of on the rebound, letting off some steam, because she's willing to have sex with him. And they kind of know each other, don't they? And especially Daniel Kaluuya's character knows him from like baseball games and shit like that. He's a police officer on the border. And it's only that band, when he sees that, or when Emily Blunt sees that he's got that band in his pocket, that she realizes that he's being paid off by the cartels and he's been sent to kill her after being identified by the CCTV. And it's a really shocking scene when he's trying to strangle her. And first of all, I think he would have raped her as well, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I think he would have probably had sex with her and then killed her anyway, because that's what he was there to do. But yeah, I think he wanted to get his end away, didn't he? No matter what.
Yeah, it's quite shocking. It just goes to show that the kind of the levels of people you cannot trust, and the fact that the cartel are everywhere, and even people that Kaluuya thought was an old friend in the force has been bought off by the cartels. And I think that it's as scary as it is, it highlights that everyone is open to corruption, aren't they?
Yeah, I think if you work in that sort of place and you're given that opportunity and you aren't, if you're struggling, if you've made bad life choices, people do it. You hear of it all the time, don't you? So people are greedy as well, aren't they? So
Yeah, definitely. And you also learn, which I do like, and again, it comes back to poor old Emily Blunt's character, that they set her up as bait, knowing that someone would try and take her out because she was stupid and naive enough to show her face at the bank. And obviously, it's Bernthal's character tries to do this, and Benicio del Toro is there, as he always is, a lot of the time, to save her bacon. And that they smash the crap out of Bernthal. And I like even Josh Brolin's line when he says the good thing about you being so beaten up is that people won't even notice if we do it anymore. And he says it's so casual. And Benicio del Toro is so vicious. He's got his finger deep inside Bernthal's ear.
I really enjoyed that scene in the car. I don't know, it's just my dark side, but like he's a villain and he's been bought. He's involved in it, and he's just getting some comeuppance.
Oh,
I enjoyed
definitely.
that.
I did think he was giving him a wet willy though.
It was pretty firm wet willy.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's a new way of getting information out of people.
Yeah, that would have been really interesting. Yeah, next he's going to tickle him.
Yeah, give him a wedgie.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to give you a Chinese bird next, you bastards.
Yeah, it's so brutal, and obviously now they've got him, they can use information from him to kind of firm up what they already know. And again, it highlights to Emily Blunt that these people, when I say these people, I'm talking about the CIA, will go to any lengths whatsoever to do what they can, and even put in, because they don't know. I mean, Bernthal could have gone in there and instantly shot her in the head. And I don't know about you, but I don't think they would have particularly given a shit about that. It should have been just collateral damage, and they would have got someone else.
No, I agree.
Big time.
But Benicio del Toro's character clearly does take a shine, which is nice, and I think it plays really well in this film. He does take a shine to Emily Blunt, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He does. I think he likes her. He's sort of trying to look after her, isn't he?
Yeah.
In a weird way, because he can just see what she's doing and the mistakes she's making. But the fact is, her heart's in the right place. Plus, he says, you remind me of someone that was dear to me.
Yeah.
Which you find out later.
Yeah.
That it was his daughter, which is a bit weird. But.
Yeah, because I thought his daughter would be like a 6-year-old girl, something like that.
Yeah, that's what I pictured as well.
Yeah. I didn't think it would be something like that, but it kind of works for the film, and it explains why he's always there to kind of get her back. I mean, this sets up the last 40 minutes, the last third act of this film, where again they go to this hotel and they do the briefing, and you learn that Alcaron, the leader of the Sonora cartel, was called back Manuel Diaz because of all of the shit that Josh Brolin's done. It's clearly working and having that desired effect. And during their meeting, they talk about they're going to go to Noogles and they're going to attack that tunnel. And he says to the Delta team, just make as much noise, and like 4th of July on steroids, basically, isn't it?
Mm.
And cause a distraction. And they say that he kind of says that our agent will then carry on his own mission. And again, he doesn't highlight, there's that vagueness, that frustration for Emily Blunt again, and which is exaggerated even more when she finds out the only reason why she's there is because the CIA can't operate within US borders without the assistance of the FBI.
Oh, you guys aren't really dressed for it.
And well, you didn't fucking tell us.
Well, you two went crying to Daddy yesterday, and we don't want Daddy to know everything. Well, we'll get you some extra gear.
We have tack gear in the car.
All right, good. You guys will hang back when we get there, okay?
Then where are we going?
Because CIA can't operate within U.S. borders without a domestic agency attached. I told you you'd be useful.
So that's it. That's why I'm here.
And that makes her feel like utter shit, understandably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been used.
Yeah, she has.
100%.
But it was so vague to begin with, though, wasn't it? And it was just, come and do this, but we won't tell you what you're actually doing. And she's so driven by her career and wanted to go sort of to the next step. She's believed it. And then she's tried to fight it every step of the way because she hasn't agreed with any of it. And when she finally learns the truth of why she is there, she's pissed off about it. And she even turns around and says, well, don't come then.
Yeah.
And she still fucking goes along with it. It's just like...
Yeah. Because he just says, I told you you'd be useful, and this is why. But because she's got nowhere to turn, has she? She knows from Victor Garber's character, Dave Jennings, that the Department of Justice back these guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know why she just doesn't say go. And she did say from the start, all I want to do is get the people who killed those people in the house and those 2 police officers. And he says, well, Manuel Diaz is that person. So he's told her to a certain extent of what to expect. But I think it was the rules and the route they took of getting there. But she should have expected that, honestly, because it doesn't leave you thinking, this film.
No.
It didn't, certainly me, didn't leave me thinking, shit, they have done it, but are they right? I never had that thought once. I don't know about you two.
The thing is, this is you can imagine this is how it works, isn't it? In the sense of, if you're trying to deal with a cartel in wherever, Colombia or Mexico or wherever, you can't go with your rule book and go in there and deal with it, because they've got a completely different set of rules, haven't they? You aren't going to go in there and say, oh, my piece of paper says you can't do that. They go, well, fuck your piece of paper, mate. I'm going to, stick this metal prod up your ass because I can, and torture you. It doesn't, paperwork means fuck all when you're in the middle of trying to bring something like that down. So and I go back to it. That's what frustrates me about her character in it. And I get what you said earlier in the sense that it's good that she sticks to her guns and everything. And don't get me wrong, that is good in a way, but after a while you do just get frustrated with her, because you're like, everything now, and you're still going to go along with it because you still think you can tear it all apart because you don't agree with it.
Yeah, you can't undo what's being done. You're not going to be that louder voice in this, are you?
Well, no, she is a grunt at the end of the day. She's a good person at knocking down doors and dealing with drug-related crime in that place that she was in originally. She's not any more than that.
Yeah. No,
they're not. They're not going to listen to her, are they?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's and it's good because you think, and I think a lot in life as well, that people do actually feel like this. That there's so many kind of atrocities happening. Like with different protests and murders and different things like drug deals and all around the world. And sometimes people sit and feel justice just isn't enough, and that these people need to be dealt with kind of robustly in a way that they understand. And I think to a certain extent that's what the CIA are doing. And when you understand their reasons why, it makes complete sense, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and it's interesting what the guy that's leading it sort of says, doesn't he? He turns around and he goes, until 20% of our population stops sticking this shit up their nose, we have to deal with the problems in the way we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Until people realise that snorting coke and shit like that is, a stupid idea. This is what we have to do because people are being fucking killed.
And that's a fair justification for their actions, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at the end of how do they want to keep walking into houses full of dead people wrapped in plastic bags and stuff like that, and all these other atrocities that are happening on their doorstep and in Mexico or wherever. Like I say, you can't just go in there with a warrant and say, "Oh, stop doing this, please," because it doesn't.
And that is pointed out by Dave Jennings, Department of Justice, says that. He says, well, we've taken this much money and made these many arrests, and tell me, have you noticed a difference on the streets at all?
Yeah.
And they both say no. So that kind of highlights to her Like, you can work every single day arresting these people, saving these hostages, but it's not going to make any difference. This is the only difference it's going to make. And I think sometimes you've got to stop, you've got to give up fighting it and go along with it once you understand it. But it's interesting as well. It's frustrating of the reasons why she does it. But you see Silvio, the police officer who's the corrupt drug mule. You see him picking up loads of drugs from a garage and putting it in the back of this police car. And this is when the film, for me, gets really Gucci, as in you've got the Delta Force, you've got Brolin, you've got Steve Forcing, all gunned up to the hill. You've got Benicio del Toro dressed in black. And they've got their night visions, they've got thermal goggles, they've got a drone flying hundreds of miles above them, spotting all the like the baddies coming across, all the cartel. It looks so good. It's filmed well. And you've got that music again. It's so exciting. The way it's building this tension up, it's brilliant. I still get excited now when I watch this. Honestly, it's so great.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? The sort of the shot where they're walking to it, and they go in different directions, don't they? And meet up at the tunnel entrance, and the sun setting on it, and it's just so well shot, isn't it? And like you say, the score on it and everything, it's fantastic. This is the sort of scene that reminded me of Full Metal Jacket, when they're approaching that sort of blown up town, if you like, and then that sniper appears. Yeah, it sort of reminded me of that a little bit. These guys walking off into the unknown.
Yeah, and it's good because you see them through their thermal goggles and through their night sights. And their POV from that just looks like a computer game. And again, when you see the drone flying hundreds of miles above, and giving that bird's eye view of both, as you said, Neil, both the units splitting up. I mean, the tech's there, the training's there, and these guys are so calm and focused on what they need to do. And they don't really know what they're walking into, which is just incredible, isn't it?
Could you imagine walking into a tunnel that's used by the cartel to ship drugs across a border?
That'd be terrifying.
You would, wouldn't you? Obviously, these guys are trained in such ways, and I would never dare imagine what sort of training they do, because I've never been through anything like that.
But you're too modest, mate. You're too modest.
But it's true, could you? Even thinking about it, it's just like,
they're going to be ready, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're ready
for them. Yeah, they're going to be ready. But so you or I walking through, even approaching something like that that's run by, this is his main source of getting his coke into America and making his millions. You can't imagine it's just going to have a couple of guys in there with some handguns, is it?
No, completely. It'll just be, I'd be shit scared, honestly. But I suppose these guys are trained so high, and they do cause merry hell. When they go down these tunnels, all you can hear is gunfire and flashing and people screaming, and it is the chaos that Brolin wants. And during this chaos, she sees the soldiers go one way, the Delta team, and Benicio del Toro goes the other way. And naively, she follows him down the tunnel where he comes out where the police officer is. And I'm so pleased this happened. And I think the payoff is so good that she points the gun at Benicio del Toro, who's got the policeman pinned down with a gun. And she does it all police style, like hands up, don't move. And those words just hold nothing. They hold no weight in these situations, do they? And the fact that Benicio del Toro turns around and shoots her in the bulletproof vest, so she's in enormous pain and just hits the floor. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? The payoff is so good.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's brilliant. What did you think, Paul?
The scene in the tunnels I thought was great, and when she pops out and sees that, I mean, she's wondering very quickly what's going on, and she knows it's not right, and that's why she points the gun at him, and he puts a couple of rounds into the vest, and he says, never point a gun at me again, and I think she realises it's probably not a wise thing to do.
No, not at all. It took a lot of bollocks to do that anyway, or stupidity. I don't really know, but we discover this is all part of the plan, because what he's going to do is going to use Silvio, the police officer, they're tracking Manuel Diaz, who's going back to see Alcaron. And the drone is tracking him, so they know exactly where he's going, and they use Silvio to stop Diaz in the capacity of a police officer. And I like the fact that Silvio's saying, "I've got a son," and as we know from Benicio del Toro's character, Alejandro, that holds no weight whatsoever, and he has no issues with gunning him down and killing Silvio.
Didn't help whatsoever, did it?
No, and I'm pleased, without sounding kind of sick, I'm pleased that he, even though he's a father and a husband, that he gunned Silvio down, because when you think how many lives Silvio's responsible for taking, for shipping these drugs in every day. I know he's possibly being coerced into doing it, but he's still a man of the law and got morals of his own and decisions to make, isn't he?
But has blood on his hands.
Yeah.
You can't withdraw from that.
No, exactly. And they withdraw. Brolin's obviously mission's complete. Their mission is to get Benicio over the border. And then you get Daniel Kaluuya come out. And he's, again, it would have been interesting if he would have understood what Brolin was doing whilst Emily Blunt's character didn't. I think that would have been really good for penny to drop for him. But he comes out, again, fucking going absolutely mental at Josh Brolin and everyone else involved, and they kind of mock him in a certain way, don't they? And Emily Blunt comes out again as a go, and Brolin basically puts her on her ass, doesn't he? And I think it's needed.
You listen. You went up the wrong tunnel. You saw things you shouldn't have seen.
What is Medellin?
Medellin? Medellin refers to a time when one group controlled every aspect of the drug trade, providing a measure of order that we could control. And until somebody finds a way to convince 20% of the population to stop snorting and smoking that shit, order's the best we can hope for.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's just like, stop fucking moaning.
Yeah.
Just shut the fuck up, woman. You know, or, you know, even, it's just ridiculous. You know, fuck's sake, what did you think we were doing? You know.
Do you think it would have worked if she would have come out, or if he would have come out and said, "I understand what you're doing," and tried to explain it to Emily Blunt? Do you think there would have been payoff there at all?
I
don't know. Go on.
No, I don't think so. I think that helps us, though. That helps the viewer, because this film is like you kind of alluded to it earlier on, Stu, that this film is, it's not an easy one to flow along with. You're a passenger. You're dragged from scene to scene, and you kind of, she's as much as a passenger with this film as we are. And I think that we, looking at the film from her eyes, which we probably do to an extent, quite a large extent, I think that we don't need. If you had the explanations, then we wouldn't be so much. It wouldn't be so hard to watch. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's good that it's hard to watch, because it's you have empathy for her to an extent, but it just, the film kind of like drags you from one scene to the next, because it is so hard without. And I think any explanation would just dilute that. Yeah,
I think you're spot on. I think that is summed up so well. Yeah, but it's interesting that when they find out that Kate is missing, that they are willing to go back and get her. And Brolin says, "We've got one missing. Let's go." I think that's quite interesting. When he could have said, "Well, she's cannon fodder," but I'm glad she didn't, because it still shows that Brolin is a soldier and no one gets left behind, and that what he's doing is part of the end game, and she's not her death like this isn't included in that. And I think that works really well, because he would have lost so much credit if he would have said, "Fuck it, I don't care."
Oh no, definitely. I don't think he hates her or anything like that. I don't think he'd wish her dead. I think he's just, like we said earlier, feels that he doesn't have to answer to anybody. He's doing what he's being told to do, and he's the man to do it.
And they've got different
Sort of
agendas,
thing.
haven't they?
And they have got different agendas. You're right, Paul. But, you know, ultimately, he doesn't want to see her dead. So it was nice. You're definitely right.
Yeah,
Rather
and
than
Brolin wears
just leaving
sandals.
Yeah.
He's the dude, isn't he? He's so good. I love his. I didn't even mention that when we first see him in the briefing room at Department of Justice, that he's sitting there with shorts and sandals on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great. I must go to a meeting wearing sandals and just say, look, Josh Brolin can do it. I can do it.
Yeah.
I think I'll be in there for 30 seconds before they told me.
Before you're sent home.
Yeah. I need to grow some hair, I think.
Get a wig and go in there, and you can pretend to be him. That's fine.
Yeah, you'll back me on that, won't you?
Oh, but massively.
Yeah. 11%.
God, so Diaz does get taken hostage by Benicio del Toro, Alejandro's character, and they go back to Alcron's mansion. And it's so good because when they get there, you got the drone flying over, telling them exactly how many soldiers are where and how many guards are where and where they're coming. And there's a really cool bit when obviously he's either shot or stabbed Diaz in the throat. And as the guards approach and see him, just from nowhere, he shoots the 3 guards within about a second. And it's just so good, honestly. I love this match.
Yeah, me too.
And I like the fact he don't say nothing as well, does he?
No,
you
just goes
could
in
do
there.
this, Neil. You'd be a real good killer, honestly.
I'd fucking fall over something. That's like they'd all come out and I'd just fall out of a bush and get shot by their machine guns.
I'd ring you up, give your position away to ask if you're doing the podcast. Sorry,
I'm
mate.
the guy out of Hot Fuzz that fucking falls through the fence. That's...
There's nothing wrong with that, mate. Everyone's got their part.
What I don't understand, right, is he stabbed a cop in the throat, but he still managed to convince him to drive through the gate. It's like, I know I've just stabbed you in the throat, but just carry on driving a little bit for me, will you?
It's a great advert for the car, isn't it? It's so good.
Mercedes S
drives
Class.
itself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Even
lovely.
when stabbed in the throat, I can see an advert coming.
White clean leather.
And it's great. He gets to the house, and when I first saw this part, it really shocked me. I have to be honest, that he gets there and you see Fausto Alcron, the main leader of the Sonora cartel, sitting there with his wife, with his child, who's about 10 years old, and his other child who's about 16, having dinner. And it's great that when he says that all of these people are kind of like starving, but you're sitting here eating with all the rest of your family when you're killing other families. And he speaks to him in English. And despite the fact that this guy's responsible for the brutal murder of his family, I think it's so good. And you can just see how professional that Benicio del Toro's character Alejandro is, that even though he must have so much rage inside him now and wanting to pull that trigger without any conversation, he sits there so calm, isn't he?
He listens to him goad him as well.
Yeah.
The fact he turns around and says it wasn't personal. So how can you say throwing his daughter into a vat of acid isn't fucking personal?
Yeah.
You know, the response to that is, well, it's fucking personal to me, mate. You know?
Definitely. He must have known his kids were going to get taken out, surely.
Yeah. I think his wife knew.
Yeah, his wife definitely didn't she? I was surprised. I was surprised, I had to be honest. I thought he was just going to shoot him and then do one. But the fact that he shoots the wife and the kids.
No, I knew that was coming. I figured that was coming.
Yeah. I was surprised pleasantly, and it was quite horrific as well, wasn't it? But there again,
they didn't actually show that, did they? Though it was the idea of it was horrific, but they didn't actually show them getting shot. No. It was from the father's point of view, and all you saw was just but no one. You don't actually see anyone die.
But you see the blood. You see them on the floor with
You
like blood.
you see a spatter of blood and.
Yeah, but I can't remember a film where you see children getting executed like that.
That's probably a bit. Yeah, that's too much. That's too much for the movies, really, isn't it?
I get it, and it just goes to show his character. And the reason he hit his wife and children in front of him was to say, "This is what you put me through."
Yeah.
So to speak. So I get why he did it. It was just a bit of a shock that the kids got killed.
And there's a risk that the kids could take his place, isn't there, in people in years to come, and like a vendetta come out. But I think, as you guys both say, as horrific as it was, it needed to be done, and I think it summed up exactly mentally where Alejandro is, that what he went through was watching his wife and daughter executed, and I think any father or any mother in that situation would do the same. And he kind of leaves it so Alcon has to sit there for at least 20 seconds to see his kids, and for the first time you can see actual human emotions of horror and fright in his face, and then Alejandro just takes him out, and it's brilliant. I was so pleased that he got his justice end of the day.
Yeah,
definitely, he definitely deserved it.
Yeah,
and it was brilliantly done.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, it was just so good. And the last scene in the hotel room took a whole day to shoot, and they had it scripted in a certain way. But Benicio del Toro and Emily Blunt didn't like the way it was written. They said that these two characters wouldn't do this. And again, for those who haven't seen it, absolute spoilers, no surprise. But she approaches Josh Brolin and she basically says to him that I'm going to tell everyone what you've done. Just you wait until everyone finds out the murders you've done, the rules you've broken. And even he says to her that is going to be a massive mistake. That's basically suicide. And again, as we've explained numerous times, her naivety, she thinks the higher ground will always win. And it's when she gets back to her hotel room and you've got Benicio del Toro there with a contract for her to sign, a non-disclosure contract. And it's basically you sign it or I'll kill you because I am the hitman. And when he puts a gun under her chin, I honestly believe, despite of the affections that he did have for her, that he would have pulled that trigger without a blink of an eye. I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
He's a contract killer at the end of the day, and I suppose in the government's eyes he was never there. He's and he doesn't want his name being spelt everywhere as well, does he? So because then he'd be a wanted man, Interpol and everything else like that. So he's going to look after himself, isn't he? So I think he definitely would have shot her. Yeah,
definitely, and it's great. And I think that for the first time that she actually realizes that he will kill her despite of these affections. And he says again, as you said earlier, Neil, that he says you remind me of a daughter. But that isn't enough for her to be able to live, to get out of this situation. And he said once she signs that contract, when she's all crying and she's all emotional, it's really, really good what he says to her when he says that this is a land of wolves and you need to get away.
She moved to a small town where the rule of law still exists. You will not survive here. You're not a wolf. And this is the land of wolves now.
And as he walks away after she signed that contract, again, she points that gun at him from the balcony. And you kind of think, Jesus, how many chances do you need?
Did you think she was going to shoot him?
No.
she can't do that. She can shoot someone if someone's going to shoot her, but he stands there and just looks at her. No, he knows, doesn't he? He's like, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, just turns his back and walks away.
She's doing it through pure frustration.
Yeah.
But she starts crying and she's clearly just, scared. And like we've said, she wants everything to be official and done the right way. and she's got herself into a situation she never really wanted to be in the first place.
Yeah, I have no control.
No
Yeah.
control of it.
I think from this experience, for everything, because the film obviously ends now, where it just kind of pans out with Silvio being dead and his family playing football because his son wants to play football, and the fact that he's dead, and this family live on, as in the effects that these kind of people have, leaving people behind, which is a really, really good way to end it, because she knows that he's dead. And but do you think that she knows that he was a bent copper or not, Silvio?
I don't know.
But he had nothing to show for it, though, did he? I mean, he looked at his little apartment. There was no evidence of unexplained wealth, was there?
No.
No, but I think he was a very troubled man, wasn't he? Through what was portrayed in the drinking in the morning. And,
yeah, they could have bought him from his. He could have been weak because of his boozing.
But I think a partner knows, don't they, if there's something wrong, and she probably cottoned onto the fact, or he's probably told her in some sort of way that he's had to do it to, otherwise, her and the child are going to be killed or whatever. There's a certain look of disdain on her face when she looks at him and stuff like that. So I suspect that she knows that he's involved.
Yeah, I got that impression as well, because he's playing football and they stop when they hear the gunfire, and she kind of looks over the direction of the gunfire, and there's that look of disdain on her face, isn't there?
Yeah.
So really the film fades out, and I think after this experience, Emily Blunt's character would come away, Kate Mesa would come away a more damaged character and a more disillusioned than anything else and anyone else in this film. Do you?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, because she was good at what she did, which was knocking down doors and stopping, getting hostages back and dealing with narcotic stuff, and she's been thrown into something that just completely had no idea of, really, which, like we've said before, she should have had some idea because of the job she did. But, she's been almost killed by some bent copper and fucking, people shooting another copper in Mexico trying to shoot her in the car, and, all these other things.
Yeah.
She's life-changing for her. I hope.
Yeah. Every day's a school day. Definitely.
Yeah. It's like she's gone through 5 years of university in this film, to be fair.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the follow-on, Sicario, Day of Soldado?
No. Is she in this? Is she in the next one?
No. She's not in it, but Josh Brolin is, obviously Benicio del Toro, and not John Bernthal, Jeffrey Donovan, who plays Steve Forsin. He's in it. Those three are.
Is it as good?
It's not as good, but it's still a very good film. I own both of them, and I watched both of them numerous times. I think they're very, very good films. The second one is more of a film than the first one is. Obviously, definitely happens, and you can see it, and it looks like they've kind of made a film from actual events, whereas the second one is more of a film of what happens. It's still focused on Mexico, but they go more down the lines of the Mexicans importing human trafficking people, and a lot of those people turn out to be terrorists, and that the American government are going to treat cartels as terrorists, and in doing so allows them to be dealt with differently. So it's
good way of bending the rules.
Exactly, it's what works for them end of the day, isn't it? And so that's the second one. If you ever get a chance to watch it, it's still very, very good film.
Is it on
really,
Amazon?
really
I will be watching
it's not. No, you've got to pay for it. It's such a good
when
film.
it's free, I will watch it.
Yeah, definitely. So it'll be interesting. Roughly know the way it's going to go, but how you guys are going to score this and rate this and recommend it. I mean, Neil, what do you think, mate?
Yeah, I'd definitely recommend it. I'd heard of it, but I'd never seen it. And when you said you wanted to review it, I was quite pleased that it wasn't some chick flick nonsense or shit scary film that wasn't scary. So I was very happy. And then when I actually sat down and watched it, it was a film I described it as a film I didn't want to end. That's how good it was.
Oh,
I was enjoying
fantastic.
it so much that even when it came to an end, I was disappointed that it did finish. Because I just could have carried on watching it. Yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone to watch, especially anyone that's interested in sort of drugs and what kind of shit might go on and that type of thing, you know, drug trafficking and stuff like that. There was not one single poor acting performance in this film.
No.
I think everyone was absolutely fantastic. I'd give it 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, whatever you want to score it. Best bits, I think there's so many. There's not any bad bits, to be fair. I think the only, like I've said a few times during it, I think the only annoyance I had with it was probably her continued naivety. I got it at the beginning. It was, understandable, but after everything she'd seen and stuff, you'd think she would have just walked away from it, which would have been a shit story, I get, but it just went on a bit too long for me. But I definitely recommend it.
Excellent stuff. Excellent. What about yourself, Paul?
Definitely recommend it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It wasn't something that I'd normally have watched.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know, I wouldn't have normally watched it, but it was something that I would have, looking at the title, it's something I wouldn't have really picked up on, but when you described it to me, when you raised it, it's definitely something I would watch, and I'd certainly be interested in watching the sequel. Best bit for me really was the car, the traffic jam, where they took out the bad boys in their cars
by the border.
What was it? A Toyota Camry or a flipping Impala or something?
An Impala. Yeah,
Impala. Yeah. Took them out. I mean, that was like really good. But the worst bit for me was probably the briefing room scene where, you know, how they build up these, they bring all the special forces in and they're in a briefing room and all the typical cliches go around it. You know, like in a locker room sort of thing. The cliches you fly around and just a load of testosterone gets flown around it, and it's just, for me, that was just a typical template. I've seen it 100 times before, and it's just boring to watch. But once you got past that, it was good. Before that and after that, it was great. But I really enjoyed it. I reckon 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, mate. That's really, really good. Yeah, as I say, this is a film I love so much, and I've seen so many times, and I get the same amount of enjoyment every time I watch this. It's a 5 out of 5. I think the performances are brilliant. As I say, the score is brilliant. I just think it's so good, and it was put forward for awards for the I think the score and the cinematography of this. What was it? I did write this down here. The screenplay, musical score, and it was nominated for Best Cinematography and Best Original Score and Editing Soundtrack in the Academy Awards. So whether it won or not, I don't know, but it just highlights what everyone feels. And I don't think there are any worse bits in this. Thanking you. But I just think it flows so well. It's really interesting. It's just such a good film to watch. It's so exciting and so tense still. There's no crap bits whatsoever, and it's the 5 out of 5, and I recommend all of it. It's just so good. Really good.
Talking about the cinematography, did you notice the lingering shots of the dust particles that they kept going back to? In various scenes, they'd have a shot of the room, and you'd see all these dust particles sort of going through the air. It was
on the projector, wasn't it?
Yeah, but there were several scenes where you'd see that in the room, in the background. You just see, and I thought that was quite clever.
It's just brilliant. It is so clever, and they do linger on this, and you'd never sit there thinking, why are they showing us this, or what of interest is this? Because the film is flowing so well and giving you so much back. It doesn't give you time to think about it.
Yeah.
But no, it's just friggin' awesome. Absolutely awesome. Yeah. So anyone gets a chance to watch this, definitely watch it. It's so good. So next week, hopefully, we'll have more of the gang back together, and we'll work out what film we're doing, depending on who we've got back on the podcast. I know with commitments, it depends on which direction we'll go, but it's going to be good either way. We've got The Matrix, we've got Stir Crazy, so it's really, really going to be good. So if you've not seen any of those films, pick them up, watch them, because they're brilliant, and join us next week for the podcast. It's going to be a lot of fun, as I say, whatever we're going. So have you guys got anything planned, seen anything at the cinema, anything exciting you've watched that you can recommend just before we go?
No.
No, I haven't, which is really sad. But no, I haven't actually. Yeah. But what about you, Stu? Have you been to the cinema recently? You are a cinema goer, so.
I'm a cinema goer. No, I've not. Well, I went to cinema and obviously watched Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, which I really, really enjoyed. It was so much fun. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Awful from the trailer.
No, it's brilliant. The trailer doesn't do it justice. He kind of, it's a very clean Deadpool. It's Ryan Reynolds being himself.
Yeah.
The concept is good. There's a brilliant Star Wars moment, and there's a massive nod towards the MCU, which got me so excited. It's a really fun film to watch. So if kids, I took the kids, I took my youngest, and Samuel really, really enjoyed it. So
isn't it just an updated version of the Truman Show?
No, it's different to that. It's based on a computer game, and he's a non-character player where he's just one of the guys in the background.
NPC.
But yeah, he develops his own AI, and he shouldn't, because he's just in the background, and it's his kind of journey and what happens to him and the programmer wanting to kind of enhance the software which affects him. It kind of allows them to bring different characters in, and there's a massive nod to Fortnite, and there's massive nods to like Dan TDM, like really big YouTubers who the kids can all sadly relate to these days, because they probably watch them. I mean, I didn't know who they were apart from Dan TDM. I didn't know the other YouTubers, but my son was going fanboy about all of this. So I've tapped into something really good, but I really liked it. I just thought it was a really good fun film. But yeah, I'd recommend Free Guy. Paul, you'd hate it completely.
Would
honestly.
I?
Yeah, 100%.
I did like Truman Show though.
Yeah, this isn't like the Truman Show. So
just explain how it's not the Truman Show.
Yeah. Fuck me, honestly.
I'm trying to get into Christopher Lee films again. I used to like Christopher Lee. I watched one today. Just trying to find what it was called.
Do you watch films that aren't set in like the 70s or 80s at all?
I just watched one for today, didn't I?
Jesus, by choice.
No, but these are classic though. Like Doctor Terror's House of Horrors. That's on Amazon. They just come onto Amazon.
Yeah, but Flares are classic, but no one wears them.
Do you know? I used to live around the corner from.
Yeah.
I used to live around the corner from where Boris Karloff lived. His old house was actually shaped like a coffin. Boris Karloff, he was Frankenstein, the monster.
Right. What?
Yeah.
Actually him, or
he
an
was
actor
him, yeah.
that portrayed him?
Oh, no. So Boris Karloff. Look him up, guys. Boris Karloff.
So I know who Boris Karloff is.
Yeah. So Boris Karloff was Frankenstein's monster. So he was an amazing actor. But I used to live around the corner from him in Bramshot. Anyway. So I am stuck in the. I'm just trying to like get a bit of old classic horror, you know, because all the recent stuff's shit.
Wow.
Go back and watch The Pit and the Pendulum. There you go. There's a classic.
Yes. Well, that actually, the one I watched today did have reference to that, because it was the old Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
That was the first horror film I ever watched.
Do you enjoy
Really?
it?
The Pendulum. I was quite young, but yeah, I did enjoy it a lot.
The old horror, they showed more boobies, don't you think?
Oh, definitely.
Maybe.
Which makes it all the better.
Yeah. Don't show more boobies.
I think they did, honestly.
Yeah.
But I did used to like the Hammer House of Horror stuff. That was always...
Yeah, I love all that stuff.
That was great. But some of it, Paul, there is a reason why they don't show it on TV anymore, because it's absolute
Well, it's
shit.
back on Amazon, so there you go.
Doesn't mean it's good.
In your face.
Yeah, that also has The Killer Sofa on it. So
yes.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you're portraying that that's a good medium, I'd
Killer
choose a
Sofa.
different argument.
I've
Yeah.
never watched The Killer Sofa.
We have, haven't we?
We have. We were going to review it, and we watched it, and it was so bad. We said we
sacked
can't
it.
review this.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
It is. It was amazing to watch The Killer Sofa. It's something I'll never forget, honestly.
Yeah.
So good, but never mind. Anyway. We bet if we've been going on for ages, if there is anyone still listening, fantastic. Let us know. Or send you a prize or something. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope we've given you something else to watch, because it is a really good film by all our reviews and scores. But we'll be back next week with The Matrix or Stir Crazy, both classics. I hope you can join us. And thanks for listening. Take care.